Okay, today is Wednesday, February 4th, and market was quite cantankerous this morning, but looks like it picked up later in the day. So if you could go over, George, that'd be great.
Yeah, buddy. Yeah, the cantankerous. It's a good term. No, it was without any BS. That was a hard start to the morning. It made everything very challenging as far as trying to find a good entry. The targets were the targets, and we'll go over those. And they got pretty much all of them. But yeah, gosh, the entries were tough. We'll just take it here. We'll start with the ES, and I'll take your advice, Bob. We'll try to blow this thing up, make it a little more legible for folks. All right, so here we are. We're going to start off here in the morning. Let's find our 9:30 open. Well, I guess we'll find our 9:20 where we started talking. So here we are. Right about 9:20, we opened the room up as per usual. And we were kind of in the middle of nowhere. Market, and I kind of started the day off with this. Market hadn't given a lot of clear direction to start our morning off with. So there was not a whole lot to do right at the very beginning. What we did know, we had a pretty significant hurdle to the upside that if the market was going to try to go up first, which it did, right around 950, didn't get anywhere close to the hurdle. So that, of course, was sort of out of the picture as far as trying to like counter trend trade the hurdle. And then we knew that the downside had a pretty decent decision point down here around 32.5. So we had kind of the outskirts marked. That's really where we started our day because everything between here and there just wasn't a whole lot else to talk about. We did end up with a minor. You can kind of see it just barely here in the center. We did have a minor has to hold. So again, it would be more as the market was coming back down. We just mentioned that if we can hold here, then that might be our place to get the bounce, ideally to get back up closer to the bigger hurdle up top. However, here's the cantankerous part. Is it just blew right through that, didn't make it to the decision point. So these first 20 minutes of the trading day, I'm not sure how you traded, but I was just kind of sitting on my hands waiting for something to kind of come closer to the two decision points.
Yeah, same here. I think I even typed "sit on your hands" in the chat.
I did. I saw your picture you put in the room. You just kind of sitting back drinking coffee. It was a smart move. Smart move. Yeah, because the start of the morning was just it was just unclear as far as what the bigger intention was. So nevertheless, they did eventually after, just 20 minutes of just, and these are pretty big candles. These are actually pretty large candles for the ES. This is a 5-minute chart, folks. So they were covering a whole lot of space. What's our distance here? 35 to 60. That's not normal. So there's always little clues and hints, the market gives, to sit on your hands and not do much. Nevertheless, it did finally get through our downside initial decision point here, and it got through our hurdle and got to first target. Boom. So we knew it, we had it posted, but the really rough part was trying to get in on that one. It just wasn't clean. So either way, after it hit the first hurdle, and yeah, Bob gave a good recommendation today for people that are in, just following in Chartcast. What I think I'm going to start doing here is on these lines, there's a period in which that scenario, whether it goes to all the targets or maybe it only achieves one or two, there's a point at which that series is effectively done. So I'm going to start highlighting those in a red, like a line, just to kind of help people in Chartcast understand that we're no longer targeting those specific targets. It's not to say the market can't come down. I think that was the language I used. It's not to say we can't still go down. It's that these specific targets are just not worth paying attention to anymore because price is price.
And
Either way, after did that.
that happened because that decision point right there got closed above pretty far, right?
Correct. Yeah. So this, if we again took our little box here and we said this is our decision point associated with these targets because they're all, again, it's all part of a series. So at some point as it's approaching here, if it gets back too high above the decision point, and that's a much harder thing to just gauge. It's not like a every time it closes above a decision point, it's dead. That's not necessarily true, but I just watched to get the information, and sure enough, it finally did. It finally blew it up. So yes. So again, here's that weird spot where it became bizarre again. So it did this, and this was all fine. But then again, I'm sitting there looking for it to come back. Okay, fine. Let's get back up closer to the hurdle again. And once again, we didn't get anywhere there. But even still, it overshot. We'd called out 49 verbally in the room. I told people like 49 is going to be the highest that we can go, and still bring this thing down in something of a logical manner. So again, it shot over it by 3.5 points, or 4 points, even 4.5 points. So again, didn't close up here. So I held on to mine for a little bit. I ended up just bailing on it entirely by the time I got back to this hurdle here, like 1040, and I was just done. I was mentally exhausted. So I didn't really do a whole lot in the ES. Nevertheless, my feelings aside, because it doesn't care about me and my trading, as it so anyhow, we get on down, we get all the lower portions. We had another decision point that we posted around 11:05. Said if we get through here, then we have another whole series that can come into play. So again, even if you only took the counter trend, these are pretty awesome bounces. So a couple ticks off of the decision point up, that's another 20 plus points. So again, you can kind of see we're trying to go for like what are the key areas of the market, and how to play off of them. So even a counter trend up there would have yielded a pretty good return. And then finally got through, came back, revisited as this is what we're looking for. Like this is the money trade right here. This is exactly what we're after each and every day. If we can get through the decision points and come back and get a retest, we've already got targets posted and where we're trying to get to. And then lastly, on the ES, I had mentioned that even though we have targets kind of leading all the way down here to like 45, this right here is another major decision in the market. So if you find yourself in a short and you're kind of into this direction, be certain you take off and potentially even be done trading if you get all the way to here, and don't really hold out for that last couple, 2-3 points. It's just not going to be worth it. And sure enough, here we are. And we didn't post anything after that. So, because we're kind of back into that same scenario. The market has, slid 2 days in a row pretty dramatically. And this is what happens after they slide pretty dramatically and they achieve, several downside targets. And this applies to if you're going up. But when they have these huge slides, they're going to have a bounce of some degree. And then those are typically not, they're not well known on the front end. You got to wait. So NQ, same thing. Let's bring this on down, blow it up. NQ, it was actually a little easier on the NQ than it was the ES, only because we had two. This is kind of strange. I'm going to move this one so maybe people can see it. There you go. We had two decision points for, again, we got one scenario, two scenario. So the decision points were already pretty well known. And again, here we are at 9:20, starting off our day, having reached a first target. And same conversation. If we can get back up to these decision points, these are your shorts. I mean, the arrows are, of course, pointing down. That's where we want to go. So either way, without getting into a whole lot of, it's not a lot different than the ES. But yeah, it carried on right to every target, all 6 of them. Boom, 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 boom. That was done. And then as we bounced back up, so again, we talk about this right here. This is the rubber band of scenario number 1. And it was odd. Again, it was just odd. They don't typically do this. So it was a strange day, but they brought it after achieving rubber band of scenario number 2 down here. they brought all the way back to retest rubber band of scenario 1. So, and that was also the point that we had marked. Again, they would have to go through this. And then ideally, of course, if they were to go through it, then retest it and going up. But they would have to at least start by going through this and kind of creating a whole new scenario and saying that we're done. They obviously didn't do that. But again, it's about, where the levels are and how do you work with them. Yep, targets. And then we got another down scenario. If we lose this, it's going to bring us further down, but no targets were going to be assigned at that point. I mentioned that as well. So that even losing this is going to give additional downside. However, it's only right now, it's only clear that we have a big picture has to hold. And this was perfect. That was a great hit of the big picture has to hold. And again, we had that posted, 10:05, and it hit around 11:55. So not too shabby. Nice bounce. Ultimately, it sided with the decision point. And I had mentioned to the room that anything below this, you're just going to have to use the core, which are these like low, mid 2, extended low, all the other lines and highlighted fields, because that's the only thing you can gauge it off of at this point, because there are no targets beyond this big picture has to hold. Now, interestingly, big picture, we've talked about this, I think, in the past. It is really big picture thinking. And funny enough, they haven't really given it up. I know this looks kind of crazy, but in reality, they haven't given up this big picture has to hold. And then here, right at 4 o'clock, they came back, retested again, and we're back up. So in the big picture, that big picture has to hold is actually still holding. So we'll see what they do tomorrow. That about covers it. What do you think?
So almost the exact same scenario on that big picture has to hold right there on the NQ.
Mm-hmm.
When it finally got above there around 2:30, I caught that long, and
Yep.
I just scalped the crap out of that thing all the way back up.
Nice.
Almost the same exact thing they did yesterday.
Yesterday, yeah, that's exactly what they did. And NQ, in fact, because the ES did the same thing, where it actually hit a major. I forget if it was a hurdle or it has to hold or something. But yesterday they hit something major just like they did again today. And this was perfect. This was a great. So we discussed this in the videos, folks, and you can watch any one of these for free. We have a link, right? It's attached to the videos.
I don't think the course link's there. I'll add that.
Okay. Well, yeah, that'd be good. So you can watch any one of these videos for free to understand, what does it mean to have targets and has to holds and hurdles and decision points and so forth. And then how do you actually trade them? So yeah, you guys can go peruse that on your own. What else you got?
I think that was it. Tomorrow's another day.
Yep. Tomorrow's another day. No day is like yesterday, right?
That's right.
All right, guys. Well, enjoy. Contact us if you got any questions. Again, please come join us in the room and experience it for yourselves.
We'll see y'all tomorrow.